and welcome everyone to the Business Revolution podcast. And I'm really excited to start my third series, which are Changing Conversations. And this morning, I'm excited to be joined by Henk, who responded to my request for people who have been impacted by these principles that I share. And Henk is owner at Chef Caricature, which is a animation company. He's a 3D artist and does kind of computer graphics. And well, I'm going to let him tell you about what he does and how the principles have impacted his life and his business. And he's going to be talking today about how we can all move forward as entrepreneurs and adventurers in this wonderful thing that we call life. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Henk to introduce himself a little bit more, and we're just going to see where the conversation takes us. So good morning, Henk. How are you today?
Good morning. Very well, thank you. So glad to be here, and thank you for accepting my my answer. And it's I'm happy to be here. It's been a while that I've done any podcast talks, and I thought this is a good moment. So yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this. Okay, so maybe if we can start at the beginning. So could you explain how you were before you came to the principles and why you felt that you needed to adopt maybe a different approach?
Sure. So as an artist, there's this concept called flow. I think it's written about quite broadly, and you're like, if you're in flow, you're doing really well and life is easy and you're inventive and creative. And if you're not in flow, you're like, okay, it's a struggle. It doesn't really, there's no ideas. The blank paper is your enemy. And you're like, and as a creative, you're very sensible and sensitive to that ebb and flow of like, okay, I'm with it, I'm not with it. And after a while, you start to get a sense for what's going on here. What is this? And for me, at some point in my career, I lost my job. I had a very high profile job, and that stopped and then it ended. And I spent about 6 months unemployed, and I wasn't so excited about my craft anymore. And for a while, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't for me after all. And I took long walks on the beach, and after a while, I started to find joy again in my work. And I was like, well, I'm here anyway. I've got the time to do this. And so I started working again just for myself. And ironically, while all the conditions of my life weren't that great, I didn't have a job. I was like sort of unsure what the future was going to bring. My funds were running low, and I was like, I'm gonna be making coffee pretty soon. It didn't seem so bad anymore either. And yet I felt very, very good. I felt very different from my working life. And it's like, shouldn't I be like very worried? And my parents like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm probably happier than I've ever been, despite my circumstances. And I couldn't explain that at all.
Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting, isn't it? You know, and what interests me is how kind of society conditions us to feel in a certain way when we're faced with a certain set of circumstances. So at a time when, you know, your life was in flux, you weren't sure what you had to do, actually you felt okay with that.
Yeah, I was a little worried. I thought either I'm crazy, but I don't think so, because I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
And that was, a strange, like this disconnect between like, I'm okay, but I'm not supposed to be okay, sort of. And at some point I found a job again, and then I got stressed again, and then life went on, and I moved on, so to speak. But I never forgot that memory of like, what was that? What happened there? And so one day I met somebody who had an understanding of the principles, and I couldn't really say why. He was just starting out. As Ankush Jain is now an established coach and doing really good work. And as one of his first clients, I basically just said, I think you see something that I need to learn more about, because I had like post-its on my monitor screen, like be happier, be more relaxed, have more humor. And every week I'd have a new theme trying to get something going. Like, I just need to get back into this flow state, so to speak, and I was just like actively looking for it. And in essence, he basically made the very obvious statement in retrospect, but it was genius at the time. He basically said, what if you didn't need to do that? And my reaction, honestly, was I was just laughing. I was like, what? Wait, how does that work? How am I going to get more of something without doing anything?
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? You know, because we think we have to do something to get to that state. That's what we're taught, isn't it? You know, that, you know, we have to do special mantras or follow a special step-by-step program, or, you know, there's something that we need to do to be active. And it's so refreshing in many ways to say, actually, what if you don't do any of that?
Yeah.
So what was your response to that, apart from after the initial shock? What impact did that statement have on you?
Well, so I humored it. I thought, let's humor it. Let's test it out. I've been testing everything, so let's test this out as well. Let's give it a go for a test run. So I took all the 7 or 8 items that I thought were going to bring me something that I needed to have, and I just piled them up, and I put them at the side so I could still pick it up later. I was like, I'm not going to let go of this yet, but I'm willing to try it for like another week or see what happens. And after that, I didn't have anything on my mind because I didn't have anything to do. I wasn't like, well, what are you going to do if you're not looking actively for happiness or a joy or contentment or flow? Or there's just like tons of space.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's almost ironic, isn't it, that we spend all of our time doing and thinking ourselves trying to be happy, and then we say we have no headspace, and if only we had headspace, we'd be happier or more productive, or we'd be more in flow. And we don't see the connection with, actually, we're creating so much thinking about it that's what's taking up the space in the first time. And when we stop doing that, it's like, oh, I don't actually know what to do with all this space. Wow. That must have felt really, really strange for you at that time to have that space.
Actually, it was just like being back. It was like, oh, I'm back where I used to be, where I wanted to go. And I was like, I was like, I'm not sure what this is once again. But I was like, this is really good. And whatever it is, I'll find out more about it. So and then I went on to like find out more about it and more about it and more about it. But I learned responsibly that there is like you have this free ebook that you put on offer. Then I had a short read through it as I prepared for this talk, and you talk about parasitic ticks, like ticks that suck the blood. I thought that was so appropriate because it's like you had the mind reading trick, and it's like that's so on point. It's the could you say a little bit more about that? Because I'm gonna ruin it.
That was kind of that's quite an old one that I used to have, but it's this idea that, you know, we spend ages trying to figure out what other people are thinking, you know, and we spend so much time telling ourselves that we really know. So I could be looking at you right now thinking, oh, you know, Henk doesn't really get this, you know, I'm just waffling on. I bet he wishes he was doing something else and he's spending his morning with me. And I would tell myself this whole big story about what you're thinking, but I can't possibly know because I'm not a mind reader. You know, but I'll convince myself that I am. And in that moment, all of that thinking feels really true to me. It feels, or it could be feeling really real to me. But for me, what this understanding did was it kind of wised me up a little bit. So momentarily I might get sucked into it. And then I go, nah, that thinking hasn't got any data in it. I can just let that go, you know, because I can't know. I can't possibly know. You know, not in a million. I could sit here for an hour and try and work out what you're thinking, and I still wouldn't get it right. Or if I did, it would just be by chance. It wouldn't be because my thinking has developed this kind of spidey sense about something. You know, it doesn't work like that.
And so it falls away. So there's this big chunk of processing power that's now freed up with well, you're just left with like, well, nothing really.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. And that's, I mean, what I find with my clients, you know, when they come to me and they say, you know, my head is so full, I don't have space to think, I have no time. And then they start to see this understanding. And then just like you, it's like, oh wow, my head is clear.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
it frees them
yeah,
up to just get on with whatever it is they want to do.
yeah. It's funny though. I know this one. I ran into it. I got a sense for it. Um, I would call it like we live in our own reality all of the time. And we can never really know what someone else was actually thinking. But I'm a trained artist, and I studied facial muscles and expressions, and over time I became a really good reader of faces. So I could read if someone is like very happy, like genuinely happy, because you can see certain muscles contract in the face that tell you like this is genuine happiness, this is polite happiness, this is genuine sadness, this is not sure, there's part of aggression in it, that they use for police training. And I was I was getting sure about something once again, and at some point I had an experience with my girlfriend who's like very easily assertive, and I read her face as in she is like angry. And we later had a chat about it, and I asked like, what was going on for you? Because for me it was like, you're really angry. And she said, you cannot know what I'm feeling and thinking. And for her, she was like making a point, but she was making a point in a way that was stronger than I would have liked, my personal preference.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from that, and I got such a like another deeper level of respect for you don't know. You can judge it, you can think about it, you can guess it, you can be very, you can have an experience where you're absolutely sure, and then still on the level of thinking, you really don't know.
You don't know. You don't know. And that to me frees us up. You know, it lets us off the hook, you know, because it means we don't have to spend that time second guessing.
Yeah, and you can ask about it, like what's going on,
And you
which
just,
I
yeah,
frequently do. Like, please tell me what's going on here, and I can say, like, for me, this is really okay, or it's not okay, and I can, um, like, it works both ways. I have the responsibility to express in words what's going on for me. If I'm really cool with something, or I'm like, this is really not cool for me, and that's really helped me, because I was always like sort of, well, they can probably guess what I'm feeling. And I just
yeah,
like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to bring this up. But then now I'm like, well, actually, it's like in a conversation, it's so wildly tricky to navigate together if you're unaware that you're like, I don't know what you're thinking. I couldn't
no.
like you're happy. You seem happily smiling, and I think that's true. But it's an exploration at the same time. It's like, what are we going for? And it becomes a more creative in the moment deal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what occurred to me as well is that even when we share how we feel, what this understanding gave to me was that that's just how we feel in that moment. And 10 minutes of moments later, we could feel completely differently, you know, and in the way that our emotions sort of ebb and flow, so does everybody else's. So, you know, even if somebody gives you really bad feedback, because that's how they feel in that moment, the next day they may reflect on it and think, oh, actually, do you know what? I don't think it was so bad after all. And their feelings change too.
Yeah, yeah.
And this idea that nothing is fixed, nothing is set in stone, even though our thinking thinks it really is,
Mm.
it really isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that ties beautifully in going forward. It just reminds me, as I did two things that were new to me when I began learning to draw. I would feel wildly different about it. Sometimes wildly happy, sometimes wildly unhappy, and after a while, I just concluded this is just going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. But let's make progress. So I would. Um, I would draw 10 or 20 pages, and then I would go back and then have a moment where I would actually judge my progress. But I wouldn't judge it earlier. I would just be doing it. And over time I kept on going and kept on going. And for some weeks I would feel like, I'm not making any progress. This is not going anywhere. I'm not really sure if this is going to go. And then after a while, I would look back and it's like, well, I crossed a lot of ground on this. Like if you look at 20 pages back, like, I'm not that great now, maybe, in my thinking. But look 20 pages ago, it's like, okay, well, there's a contrast there. There is actually something definite. I can see my ability to draw perspective improve. I could see my understanding of shape and muscle improve. And it's like, interesting.
Yeah, I love that. I love how kind of like when we're so close to our work, we don't see the journey that we've been on.
Yeah.
And often it takes us that moment to really step back and judge it over a period of time, and we can actually then see the whole journey and see really how far we've come. Yeah. But I love, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, what I loved about how you were describing that, there was a real kind of like finding your way. And is that something that you do in your business, or do you kind of know where you're going, or how do you move yourself forward into the future, if you like, to make sure that you still move your business forward or move your craft forward? How do you know which direction you're going to take it into?
I don't think I couldn't possibly answer it. There is like, in a way, it's like, it kind of reminds me of the statement about war generals. They're always fighting the last war. So like, they learned so much from the last war, and in the next one, they're still doing what they learned in the previous one. Yeah. I kind of, like, every assignment that I have is so wildly different that the next one is almost unpredictable. So I kind of prepare for the best I can, and I keep my eyes open for opportunities. I make connections, and I'm like, after a while, you just start to get a sense for like, oh, this is up and coming. This doesn't seem to make sense so much anymore. Or like, after a while, it's just, I'm not a programmer, but after a while, I just started to see like, if you can scale up something and increase the volume of it, and you can just produce more of the trivial stuff, like with code, like with programming, you're going to make a big difference. And I thought, I'm not a programmer, but at the same time, I thought, this would be really helpful. So I dove into that, and I spent like some time learning to program, and I had the same thing again, like I can do this, I can do this. And after a while, it's like, I'm getting a sense for it, and this is really helpful, and it's really paying off. And there's this growing set of building blocks of just skill level that is present. And then I got a job that an assignment where I was basically leading a team, which I hadn't done before, and I could not have prepared for that at all. So I just had what I had, and then I did the best I could. And then it's just like, you just keep going forward. You just keep like, and you learn, like, every day. It was like, okay, I've done this mistake 15 times. I see my team making it. Let's not do this again. Let's install this procedure right here. We just need an Excel sheet and track this, and then we're going to be not making that mistake again, and then we're good on that front. And we didn't have time to just sit around and just like ruminate on what wasn't going well. We're just like, okay, let's not do this again, and let's keep on moving forward. Let's keep making progress here, because we need to keep going.
Yeah, I love that. What I loved about what you were talking about there is you kept using the phrase, I just had a sense for this, and I just had a sense for that, and I just followed that. And there was just been a lovely flow to how you developed your business. I think so often, especially for entrepreneurs and freelancers, there's an idea that we have to know definitely where we're going to be in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, a year's time, 5 years down the line. What's your 10-year plan? And that in itself can be very stressful, and also demotivating. When it doesn't feel, when your plan that you set in place 2 years ago no longer feels like it's serving you anymore.
Yeah.
But what I loved about what you were saying was that it's, even your business has a flow to it, and that you're feeling your way with this sense of what is right or what feels right. I wonder if, could you talk maybe to that a little bit? What is it that you're using, if you like, for those who are new to the principles? You know, how do you know that something is right, or that you're feeling your way in a certain direction?
Let me give a very concrete example. I think we have, I think there is, like, I think we can learn from both our successes and failures, and the failures have been far more rewarding to learn from. So it's not like I think everybody has a sense for where they need to go, but at the same time, we, or at least me for myself, like, so I had an example with a colleague at work, and I was like, the result just weren't there, and we needed results, and we couldn't, like, because we had such a creative endeavor and such a high pace and such development going on, that we needed results, or we were not going to make it. And we were going to make it, but like, if we did better, we could, like, get a better result and do even better. And the results weren't there, and it's just like, for a while, for a few weeks, I had this person as a target. I was like, there's a problem with this person. And after a while, I started to see my own mistake in that, because it's like, well, I think it's the person, but there was just, like, I felt about it, and that's how I thought about it, and it seemed like my feeling was legitimized. I had like a negative feeling with this person, and the results were negative, so I thought I was justified in that. And that illusion, like, haunted me for a while, and it wasn't too much fun. And I tried my, like, best to be graceful with it, and everybody, I think everybody recognizes you, like, there's just someone who's not doing what they need to do, and it's just, and you're stumped for answers. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not seeing something here. I'm definitely not seeing something here. And after a while, it just, the realization is always the same. My negative feeling or my positive feeling is 100% reflection of what I'm thinking in the moment. And it's, so that person may still not give me the results that I'm looking for, that we are looking for, but I wasn't too focused on it. And so the target shifted from the person, and I thought started to, like, that fall away. And as it fell away, I had like a sense like, well, what's going on? Does this person have whatever is needed? And I started to think, well, I'm kind of expecting a couple of things here, and maybe I could just help out here and here and here. So I had like these little ideas, and so I took on a little bit of tasks. I invested a little bit of extra time, and we set up a system, and it was really helpful. And then you can help somebody else get on track, so to speak. And you can, like, with the right target, you're targeting, like, what are you going for? What needs to be done, instead of being frustrated with a person. Like, well, the frustration is my own, so that can fall away.
Yeah. And I really, really like that a lot, because I think it's an illusion that everyone can identify with, that we have a feeling about someone, and the results kind of, we'd say, oh, well, the results speak for themselves, and that legitimizes my feeling about them. So the feeling was right.
Yeah.
But all the time that we're in that space, we're not looking for a solution, and nor can we hear a solution for the problem in hand. We're just kind of like checking out of it and saying, well, that's not anything to do with me. That's everything to do with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's just such a great example of when we let go of our thinking about that person, when we let go of our own frustration and know that that's on us, that's something we've created, then we can look to help and solve the problem that we're experiencing. And yeah, that's great. That's just such a lovely outcome, isn't it, for both of you?
Yeah, and even if we didn't get like the improvement, like it was entirely possible. There were many areas in which I was like, I had that. I was like, I'm frustrated. The results are frustrating. I'm legitimized. After a while, I was like, well, they can't make me feel anything, and the mind only works one way here. Like it's from thought to feeling, and those are one, and they're not tied to the results. So even if I couldn't, like, I would have liked to do many things differently. I would have liked to have better preparation. I would have liked to have this and that and so and all of these things, and not everybody and not everything is going to be as I like it, and that frustration could fall away, because I could at least take account for my feeling in this, and I realize, and I could check with my employers, like, are you okay with how we're doing this? Is this okay for you? Are we going to go to the end of this and in this way? And they were like, yeah, this is okay for us. And I was like, okay, then it's okay for me. Then we're going to do it like this. And I could let that part go and then focus on getting, like, do as best as we can with what we have. And so even if the results aren't coming, and my frustration is there, after a while, the frustration can go because it's like, it's my own.
Yeah, no, I love that. I really love that. I think as well, what occurred to me when you were talking is that even though we have this understanding, we will still have misunderstandings. They
Oh,
will
yes.
still come and go.
Oh, God,
I think
yes.
it's so many people think, oh no, now I'm bulletproof. I have this understanding and now I need to be a perfect human being, whatever that may be, and never have another misunderstanding again. And it's just lovely of you to talk through one of your own misunderstandings. I think that's really, really helpful for so many people to hear that that's what happens.
Yeah, I was looking for that to get that flow, and it's like, well, that flow is only gone by the grace of how I use whatever I'm experiencing in the moment.
Yeah. And I think it's really important, isn't it, that, you know, this understanding that we talk over is an understanding. So it means that when, as you say, when you're not feeling flow, or you're feeling frustrated with someone, or you're feeling stressed, there comes a point where you kind of almost catch yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
So you stop taking it so seriously.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. And interestingly enough, for a long time, personally, I would call this a false discriminator, which is like a sort of a fancy term for, I was like, if we're talking about thought creates feeling, if we're talking about all feeling, and unbeknownst to me, I was like, well, I'm okay with this range of feeling. If it's like happy, I'm okay. Sad, I'm okay. Depressed, I'm okay. Unsure, I'm okay. Scared, not that great. Angry, little confused about that. And after a while, when I started to, so many stories. I have one.
Okay.
I have one. So practical example. I've, like, my eyes are slightly cross-eyed, but it's not visible. It's not manifest, so you can't see it. So if I before I had these glasses, which I got recently, you wouldn't have known that I was cross-eyed, but I was just not seeing properly, so to speak. And I had my driver's license, but I'd never really gotten excited about it, and I was like, I'm not so sure about this. And every time when I was driving, I wanted somebody else to sit next to me. I thought, I'm just afraid of driving. That's why I'm not progressing. And maybe it'll go, maybe I'll have an insight, and then the feeling will go, it'll drop away like everything does because it's an illusion, and then we're good. And it never came. And I thought, this is really not cool. I'm like, this should be falling away now. I know it's my feeling. I've seen it a dozen times, and I'm still uncomfortable. What's going on here? And so at some point I started to accept, well, I'm missing something here. Even what I know, I'm still very uncomfortable driving, and it seems tricky. And then I went to an island where there was no traffic, and I loved driving there. And I thought, what? I hate traffic. Okay, well, that's something. So that was like a little insight. I'm not too comfortable with traffic. Why would I do? Why would that be? So to make a long story short, through sheer luck, a person who, I'm not sure what the word is, optician, like a person who gives you,
yes, that's right.
Yeah. They gave me a prescription, and they found out that I was actually cross-eyed, and they gave me glasses, and I could see 3D for the first time in my life. And I was like, hold on a minute, this is big. I've been missing this part like for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so with these classes, I can actually properly see. I can actually easily judge distance. I can easily see in my mirrors. And that, like when we're talking about going forward, there are just things that I don't know. And I love knowing and I love learning about it, but they're just things that we're going to be missing. And even with this understanding, and even with all of that, life is just so much more diverse and complicated. And any entrepreneur will run into that, like, well, I don't know what the deal is here. And then to not get stuck in something, in machinations or fascination, or like, I want to fix the fear, and then the fear needs to go, and then to go beyond it. And you're going to find things you didn't know, you didn't see, and then literally.
Yeah. And don't you just love that? That I mean, I love your story, but so often when we get that insight about something that, you know, you just know there's something there that's either blocking you or you're not seeing or whatever. And yeah, you can almost create frustration and those kinds of feelings about it. But when we let that go, when we get that insight, it so often feels like, really? It was that obvious?
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of that before? Even to the point with your story, you know, you're saying, oh, I have a fear of this, I have a fear of traffic. No, you just couldn't see. I mean, it was obvious when you found out the solution.
Yeah.
But all the time you couldn't see it. All the time it wasn't obvious to you. It just isn't obvious. And that's it. It's like we can just put a full stop there. We don't need to put anything else on there. It's like, I'm just not seeing it right now. But I will.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that for me very much is part of the, well, not just the entrepreneurial journey, but everybody's journey, that there will be stuff that we've got yet to see. And I mean, I personally love this understanding for that reason, because it just continually shows us stuff that we're not seeing. And that's okay. That's kind of a part of it, isn't it, really, I guess? Yeah. So how have you really like overcome, or how has the understanding helped you overcome maybe some of the mistakes, if you've made any mistakes, or where things haven't quite gone as you wanted them to? How have you how has the understanding helped you with that?
Well, it's very helpful to know that the mind only works one way. And then to see how deceptive it is, that it could work in two ways, that my feeling could come. I can have an experience where it genuinely looks like there's some part of what I'm feeling has to do with how I'm thinking about it or what's going on. And I don't know, at some point I was like, I write sometimes, and I write about the principles sometimes, and there's just there would seep in a preachiness about it. I would just be enamored with it. I was just loving it so much, and I was like, everybody should have this. And then I completely forgot that this is already like, if the mind only works one way, it works for everybody one way, always has, always will be. So like, how stupid am I to to want to bring that to the world? Like, I've got something here, like kids have this in spades, and everybody has this, but I still couldn't get rid of this preachiness. And it's like, that was a mistake I had. To get back to false discriminators, I was just discriminating life on my arbitrary standard of I know and you don't, or I've learned about this and you don't know this, so I'm going to bring this to you. And it wasn't obvious. And I had a conversation with Keith Blevins about it. It's like a very experienced guy in the principles who's seen like a lot of people fall for that. Like it's such an innocent trap, but it's not innocent. It's like we love this. We've had struggles and we come across it and we're just, this is the best thing ever. But I think a lot of people have that in different fields. Like you come across eating differently and you just cannot stop about it, like how good it is. But innocently, like for me, I was just discriminating, like I know something, please just listen and I'll sneak it in here somewhere. And I was just not seeing that part. And looking back on it, I couldn't even say that where my feeling was coming from or what the deal was. But in conversation with like, how does this work? Well, on a deeper level, if the mind truly works one way, then it works one way. And so there's, how would it be needed to be specifically talking about it? So all of that personal glorification of the principles could fall away, and they could just accept like, okay, we're here, hello, how are you, what's going on with you? No bigger agenda on it. I'm not like sneakily waiting until it can make a point, and it can just actually listen, and it's just so much better.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think it's something, as you say, it's something innocently we all fall into because it's had such a massive impact on our lives. It's just, we just, it comes from a good place that we just want to share it, and we see others that we love and admire, respect, and we can see them in pain, and we just want to help them with that pain. We want to help them make their lives better. But and I think that's so true. I think it's, you can't teach unless you have a student, as they say.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't, if they're not there to learn, then you kind of overstep the mark a little bit. But I think one of the most beautiful things that I find about these principles is the ability to just be with someone and just listen and have no agenda, and just know really on that deep level, even you don't even have to tell them, that they don't need to be fixed, that they have this, that they're going to find their way and they have the solution within them, and we can just sit with them and know that, and not have to say anything at all. And that can be enormously impactful for someone, and know that that's enough.
Yeah, you have the option to make, if I rephrase that in my own words,
Sure.
You have the option to take a teachable moment if you want to teach, and you can say, I see something here, would you be willing to hear it? And a lot of the time, like I still can't wrap my head around it, but a lot of people aren't just interested in it, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And like on a deeper level, I mean, I'm not actively I'm not an active coach, so I don't have the relationship where somebody comes to me and it's like, I will pay you money if you tell me to go forward, help me see what I'm seeing. So I'm not used to that relation, which sounds very interesting to me. But I do work with people and with a team, and like I work for different companies, and just to come in and get a sense for it. And then like this understanding helps me keep track of myself, as in what's going on. I can look back on my mistakes and say, oh, I'm not seeing something here, I am. And then I don't even need to teach somebody else. I can just work with people, and people get a feel for it. Like if I'm preaching, if I say, can I say it in my words? I'm already gripping it. I'm already like, I don't like the way you said that. And it's so innocent, and it happens so frequently to me. Like it's day in, day out, and then every day I can learn from it.
Yeah. I think that is so true. So true. Well, thank you so much, Henk, for joining me today. I've just loved this conversation. It's just been so easy and free, and we've covered so much ground in such a short space of time. And I'm sure that that those who are listening to it will find it enormously helpful and kind of reassuring as well to hear from a fellow entrepreneur who's working and living with these principles about how they can really impact your life and help you, really deal with the challenges that we think we're facing.
Yeah.
And how to really see them differently. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed your time on the show too.
Yeah, it's been very fun. Thank you so much, and good luck with the podcast. I'm really curious where you're going to take it next.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much.